Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is my Unscripted and Unchained first look at Sword and Caravan. So Sword and Caravan is a new RPG that has been put out by the RPG Pundit. He first announced this game on my channel, one of my OSR tabletops with DM Bloodworth back in December. I believe it was December like 29th. It was very, very close to, the new year. And it was a real great pleasure to finally interview him on my channel. And that's where he made this announcement. So I, of course, was looking forward to the release of this, and I jumped on it right away. Now, I normally wait until I get the physical copy before I do a review of it. But I just didn't want to wait too long. I'm expecting it any number of days now, probably less than a week before it gets shipped out. I know it's been already shipped, so before it gets here, usually those things take like a week to 10 days in order to get to me. So, but I do have the PDF, and so that is what I'm going to do. Now, I have not looked at this at all, so you're getting a true first look at it, and I will talk about my impressions of what I'm seeing initially, and then I will of course do future videos further breaking down this game product, because I was, really excited about getting hold of the source book and RPG, because it was always my interest to delve into the Far East as far as a setting for something a little bit more historical fiction type type gameplay, rather than things like Oriental Adventures, or just more fantastical look at it. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm hoping, or kind of expecting, that it will deliver what I'm looking for along the lines of some of the RPG Pundit's other works. So before I move on to the actual PDF, so what I'm referring to is his games like Lion and Dragon, which is a medieval authentic OSR role-playing game. And although it's probably a different system used in Sword and Caravan, I'm expecting to see a lot of similarities between the two, and also I'm expecting to see that authentic view of presenting an RPG, so that when you read about it, particularly its lore, it comes off as being more believable and more true to the way that things actually were during the time periods that he's talking about. Some of his other things was, Dark Albion, which goes along with Lion and Dragon, and it's a grim fantasy England in the 15th century. So as you can see, he has a particular interest in writing historical fiction RPGs, and one of the more recent is Invisible College, which is not a fantasy. It's more of an occult, RPG occult, book dealing with like what magic would look like if it were real in the real world, and in this setting. So really looking forward to getting to actually play that for the first time. So, once I get into the summer months and I have a lot more free time to play around with different games, I do want to do a number of one shots and such using any of these systems, plus the loads and loads that I have behind me as well. So without further ado, let's start taking a look at Sword and Caravan. And I'm going to switch views here and go right to the PDF. I might have to make some adjustments because, as I said, I have not yet I have not yet expanded on this. Take a look at it here. So we have Sword and Caravan, Medieval Adventures on the Silk Road. You can see very colorful and stylized writing for the title. Actually, let me shrink this down a little bit. A historical setting for OSR games by RPGPundit. So comes off, straight off and saying that this is a setting book primarily. So, Sword and Caravan is an OSR setting book for playing a historically accurate fantasy campaign set in the East along the region known as the Silk Road. At the turn of the 12th and 13th centuries, this historical campaign's timeline is set amid the turbulent era between the Third Crusade and the Mongol invasions. This marked Europe's earliest period of post-classical interaction with the East. As players, you may decide to take on the role of the Crusaders, merchants, or explorers traveling to ancient and mysterious lands. Mysterious is a racist term now. Alternatively, you may choose from any number of unique character concepts native to those lands. With detailed gazetteer of every region along the Silk Road, from the Crusade states and the Muslim world to China, Sword and Caravan gives you everything you need to explore the history and varied cultures of the region filled with war, intrigue, commerce, and conquest. This book includes new classes and magical techniques. So when I say new classes, I'm assuming now that it's an extension of Lion and Dragon. Guidelines and mechanics and merchant commerce, social interactions, law and justice. The historically accurate bestiary of medieval monsters local to the setting. Magical items inspired by the myths and legends of every culture in the region. Abundant adventure seeds that GMs can use to hook players. Random tables and generators to help create encounters with an authentic world feeling. Although Sword and Caravan is designed for play with any OSR system, it is especially attuned for play with Lion and Dragon Medieval Authentic RPG. All right, so great. So now I settled that. Like I said, this is my first look at it, and so now I'm glad that I already have Lion and Dragon because this is now an extension of that. So the credits, it's designed and written by RPGPundit. The formatting and graphic design is by Mad Scribe Games, LLC. The editor is by Chris Miller. And Chris Miller puts out his own, awesome RPG games as well. So certainly look those up. Interior illustrations by David Guile, another person I'm very familiar with. I've had many conversations with him, and have some of his games as well. So again, look up these people. Dean Spencer, who I haven't had contact with, but that might be somebody I might want to reach out to. These are all your interior illustrators. Chris Miller again, and various public domain sources for non-copyrighted images. All right, and if you're doing a historical OSR, I think that there's a good reason to use public domain, older period, art for your book as well. So let's continue on. And you can see very, very, very intricate borders. Let's take a look at the table of contents. And this is just a first look. I'm just taking, just going through it and getting some very initial impressions of it. When I get the soft cover in my hands, I will certainly start going through and and going into detail with some of these. So we have the introduction, setting notes and culture, social status, magic monsters. So many of the things I read in the introduction as well. The setting overview, the city of Acre, Antioch, Tripoli, Tyre, Acre again, the kingdom of Saladin, the Seljuk Turks, the Khwarezmian Shahs of, and then you have Bukhara, the Gurids, Lao Karakatan, the Xi and Tangut, the Jin dynasty, the Song China, the Mongols, the Gazetteer of the. So all of this is just tons and tons of resources and content, background content and such. Let's actually take a look at the. It's pretty packed too. I mean, you can see there's a lot of information. So here's some humans, so bandits and Ismaili assassins, typical tribal raiders, hyenas, scorpions. So many of your real creatures that you might encounter throughout those regions here. A yeti, a wind horse. I'm not sure what that is, but I'll take a look at it, and so on. And we go into equipment, slaves, hirelings, trade goods, cost of living, and such. So yes, this is an authentic, look at the Far East and the Middle East and such. And so you are going to have these elements that were true to the time period. And so this should not raise any issues if you kind of understand what you're, going to see in an authentic OSR. Yes, there will be slaves. There will be slavery. There will be all of the things that you would find in the real world back during these time periods. So I don't think that elevates this to any kind of a rating that would be adult only. It's certainly, those types of things still, I believe, fall within like a PG-13 rating. If it's in a middle school textbook, I'm a social studies teacher by profession. If it's in a middle school textbook, it's certainly open for discussion, and presentation in an OSR or any RPG game system as well. So just a little disclaimer there. So list of tables. So we have lots of. Is this linked? Hyperlinked? Holy cow! That is awesome. All right. So I did not expect that. You can actually click on the link and it opens it up. That is surprising. So I don't believe I've ever seen that before. So really, really, really cool. So all these appendixes of appendices, however you say that, appendices, Indian male names table. So lots of tables and everything. Let's go back. That I'm very, very impressed with. So, and it just froze up on me. But that I am super impressed with. I was not expecting that. Let me see if I can reboot this. There we go. So that I had no idea. Let me test that out elsewhere. these, I don't think these are hyperlinked like that was. Let's see. No, it is. It's all hyperlinked. That is super impressive. You just can't back button on it, which is the one thing, but if you refresh, you go right back to the beginning again. But hey, that that function on the PDF makes it much, much more usable, and just unique. I've never seen that before. So you just blew me away with your with your hyperlinking of the items in the table of contents. So let's see. I'm scrolling. So now we have religion and magic and monsters. Life is cheap. Let's see what he's talking about here. In the medieval world, life is cheap. 1/3 of the children will not live to see their 10th birthday. War is brutal, but more soldiers die from infection and non-lethal cuts than they do on the field, so disease is a constant threat. In game terms, to reflect the medieval authentic style of play, there should not be any raise dead or resurrection spells. There's no coming back from death, and even the mightiest of warriors can be slain by some humble peasant with enormous luck. All right, for example, Richard the First, the Lionheart, whose exploits and incredible prowess in battle will be described in the timeline chapter of this very book, ends up dying from an infection caused by a crossbow bolt in the shoulder, fired by a boy barely in his teens. The Lion and Dragon RPG is designed that you can have extremely powerful and competent high-level characters, but an unlucky hit, even from a one-hit die opponent, could slay a 10th level knight either through critical hits or disease. So if you aren't using L&D but want to make your game have the risk factor and intensity of the medieval authentic, make sure you apply some kind of critical hit rule and take disease seriously. Very cool. Morality, sexuality, and the role of women. I'm sure this will be a fun ride. So, the most important aspect of medieval authentic play is that the morality of the modern post-Enlightenment world, to say nothing of the postmodern world, is not the morality of the culture of the setting. People in this time have a completely different mindset regarding objective truth, crime and punishment, sexuality, and gender roles. This is not to say that these moral concepts were very strictly obeyed, but that these values were never publicly flaunted. Honor alongside family and faith was the basis of all cultures of Europe and the Silk Road, and nothing was worse, not even death, than that which could cause dishonor. Regarding sexuality and gender roles, there were some areas of the Silk Road where the culture was more restrictive and others that were more relaxed. While in the Christian and Muslim areas, the culture was very strict, and both extramarital sex in general and sodomy in particular. Certain religions were much less fundamentalist than others, and in them, these forms of sexual activity were more tolerated, as long as they weren't too visible. In the areas dominated by the Chinese culture and rules were somewhat more lax, although anything that caused scandal or public embarrassment was still taboo. In areas where the Persian or Hindu culture had more influence, there was some toleration for a third gender in society. And that's just something that, RPG Pundit does extremely well. Is he does his research before he puts this stuff out there, and you'll notice if you follow him on Twitter or anything else, very few people actually attack him directly on the content of his RPGs. They attack him on his delivery of some of his views, but the content of his RPGs, because he does so much research and just puts it out there as is and unapologetically as well, is a reason why they virtually never attack him on the content of his RPGs. Again, just a delivery is where some people kind of give some pushback on. I think in most cases they just, they don't poke the bear when it comes to him, because they can't debate him on some of these issues. They can't debate him on game design, which I think he's probably one of the best out there. So, and you could see it. You could see it here in the product, just in the layout of it, and in the artistry of just the backgrounds and everything. It makes it kind of ink intense if you were going to try to print out this thing, but otherwise, I mean, it just looks great. Easy to see the page numbers, which was always a criticism I had with the rule cyclopedia for D&D, is that you could barely see the page numbers. You really had to know where to look for them. So let's see. So far, 208 pages. Now I will say that this is on Drive-Thru RPG right now. You can get it in hardcover, you can get it in softcover, you can get it in PDF, and you can get it in combinations of hardcover with PDF and softcover with PDF. I purchased the softcover with the PDF, and it was like $44. So it is a little bit on the expensive side. That's the one thing I will say. However, that being able to click on the table contents really blew my mind. That's a really, really useful thing to deal with. So I like these maps. These look pretty cool. The Taurus Mountains, the Al Hajarah Desert, Road to Mecca. So here we have Baghdad and Basra, which is I never made it that far, but I was closer to Basra when I was in Iraq, or really on the Saudi-Iraq border. So very cool. I really like this. Really like the artwork too. It is. It really does set the tone for the book. Now let's actually get down to the I want to get to the charts in the back without actually directly linking to them. The Sufi benefit table, or these classes, new classes. Let's see. Classes and powers. All right, let's take a look at this real quick. This looks like it's the beginning. Maybe not. Silk Road Merchant, new classes. Here we go. So we have the Silk Road Merchant. Requirements: a charisma of 8, must be a villain or peasant class. The family background will usually be from a long-standing family of merchants. Hit points is a d6, modified by a con. At level 1, +1 hit points per level thereafter. Also, very low hit points, as you're seeing. And that's another element of the authentic historical RPGs, is that you're not dealing with these massive amounts of hit points, because the games are much more lethal. the idea that someone can, take 75 hit points of damage is kind of, bizarre if you're thinking about it. It's like how many times can the human body get hit with a sword? Certainly not 10 times, and so that's why a lot of these, and this is not the only game system that does that as well. There's plenty of game systems that have a much more realistic amount of hit points. They just have a different concept of what hit points actually stand for. So yeah, so I like that idea of the hit points being a little bit more reasonable. So a tribesman, a Sufi, quite a lot of them. Let's see what kind of magic they get. Theology +1. They also begin with one miraculous power rolled from a random miraculous power table. Okay. So here's the power. They could be a bilocation, exorcism, freedom from bonds, healing, levitation, locate object or person, manifest food or drink, and read minds. Also, bilocation is the power of being simultaneously in two places at once. Pretty cool. The rest are fairly self-explanatory. A Sufi, I'm reading, manifests food and water. A Sufi can make food and water appear through miraculous means. Very helpful if you're traveling in a desert. So, okay. Reading minds. So Chinese, Confucian, Taoist, Buddhist, sage. And let's see what else we have here. Yeah, so there's a lot. As you can see, there is a whole lot to this here. And this is supposed to be just a first look. And I'm only 84 pages in, and I've just found so much that's just interesting that, it's going to take a long time to actually dig through all of this. And I have been saying I wanted to get to down near the end where all those charts are. The chronology of the Silk Road. So you can actually like insert your player character group into this timeline wherever you kind of want to, and you'll know what events had already happened or what ones are upcoming. So that's pretty cool. I wonder if these are links. No. So here we go, the appendices. Names of the Silk Road, Arabic names. So quite a few names here first. Excuse me. Indian names. And they tell you what the meanings are. That's pretty cool. And random encounters and adventure seeds. Oh, so you can actually roll these too. That's pretty cool. And utilizing those maps, you could probably do something very similar to a hex crawl, and then just using these random tables and adventure seeds to basically, create the stuff along the way. Here you have random village generation. You have a more regionalized map. And here you have Mongolia. All right, so you have Armenia to Kush. You have Mongolia to Cathay. All right, so here you have, Cyprus, what would become, I guess, Jordan. Yeah, there's Egypt down here, Jerusalem. Yeah, so all in here. The Taurus Mountains. To Crete. Yeah, so here is Mosul to Crete. So obviously Iraq, or what would become modern day Iraq. There's Baghdad down to Basra. We have the Caspian Sea. And let's continue. Just so much detail. And that's it. That's where it ends. So as you can see, I mean, that was a big surprise for myself as well, and just seeing that hyperlink to in the table of contents where you can just jump to those things is the first time I've ever seen that on a PDF. So that was a big surprise. So definite thumbs up on that. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you get a chance to to pick up a copy of this, I certainly recommend it. I mean, even if you just get the PDF, you can see how useful that is. If you already have Lion and Dragon, then to me, at least picking up the PDF is a no-brainer. But the quality of his printing, because I have several of his books here, the quality of the printing is actually very good. So, and I prefer soft cover over hardcover because it just takes up less shelf space as well. So yeah, definitely give it a shot. Take a look at it. And I will, once I get the soft cover, like I said, start tearing into, the various aspects of it. And then I will try to make a connection to Lion and Dragon and show how the actual game system works with the content that is coming out of Sword and Caravan. So once again, thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please put those in the comments section. And I am absolutely going to share this with RPGPundit. So maybe if he wants to come into the comments section and and answer any questions that arise, he's certainly welcome to do so, and would really love for him to do so. And if you guys put up anything here as far as a question, I will head on over to him and send him a private message or anything for specific questions to relay those answers back to you as well. So once again, thanks for joining. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon. I'm going to follow this up with several videos this weekend because I have plenty of time to do videos this weekend. So I have a few things coming up that I'm sure you'll be interested in seeing. Some have been direct requests for me to take a deeper look at various things. So, and then if I forget anything along the way, if you've made a request recently and I don't get to it, just throw a comment in any video and just remind me of that, and I will certainly get around to doing those as as my schedule starts opening up more and more once I retire in about 20 some odd days. So once again, thanks for joining. Have a great afternoon and take care.